Mm.
All right, there we go. Live on YouTube. Susan Michelle, this mic is all yours.
Hey, this is Susan Michel in Western Massachusetts. It is great to be here as always. I am the author of Surrender to Joy From Suicide to Serenity. I teach the transformational truth of A Course in Miracles, which we are all here to study, to learn, to embody the truth of. And I have my great friend and Course in Miracles soul sister, Myrna Scholar, who is the author of Private Lessons with Jesus, that I love, love, love. And she is in Florida. And you look so beautiful, Myrna. How are you today?
Fine. Very good. It's a beautiful weekend here in Florida. We can use the rain actually, but I love the sunshine. I'm not complaining. It's kind of dry here, but it's wonderful. I really love just where I am, just where I'm supposed to be, right? We're
That's
where we're supposed to be.
I was just going to say you reminded me of my famous affirmation, at least it's famous in my own mind. What if everything is just perfect right here, right now? And to just acknowledge that everything is perfect. It's such an empowering affirmation. I have a little plaque on my wall that says, allow yourself to be right where you are. I think in order to truly feel the peace of God that A Course in Miracles is teaching us to do, it's of the utmost importance to accept everything in our lives exactly as it is. Right, Myrna?
Right. How can I disagree with that? Because that would be disagreeing with what we believe in so dearly and what we treasure, and that is the principles and the teachings of A Course in Miracles. And the illusion keeps us moving from place to place, scenario to scenario. Things change and then they come back and they move forward. And when you recognize there's only one place to be, exactly where you are, that sort of obliterates the illusion a little bit. It sort of, takes away the density of you know, um, of what the illusion is. Really, it's a dense thinking that we really think we have no control over. But if anything, the Course in Miracles has taught us that we do have control over our thoughts. And it's really a mind practice to control our thinking, control our fears, which is what we've been striving for all these years. In our connection with the Course in Miracles, both yours and mine, and recognizing that the state of mind that we're in has to do with how we are able to reel in to know the difference between ego thoughts and the thoughts we think with God, which is the perfect lesson for today because it refers to only what I think with God. What does it say? Lesson 148. Um,
My mind holds
also,
only what I think with God. This is for the basic 10 lessons here in this bunch. I don't know what other term to use, but in this bunch of lessons, starting with lesson 141, going to lesson 150, they all start with my mind only holds only what I think with God. So it's so powerful. And I've been focusing on that so often, like when I'm running, when I'm driving, like if it's negative, then it's an ego thought. And those create fear, those create anxiety, those create stress. It's really important to release them as soon as, like, we need to be aware of what's going on in your head. Because when we're aware of what's going on in our head, we can choose to focus on the love. And anytime an illusory thought enters, we can make the decision to release it because that first line in these 10 lessons are so powerful. Our only real thoughts are aligned with God. And when we can basically put our mind at peace, and we can think aligned with what God would have us think, when our mind is at peace, then the Holy Spirit's guidance can get through. But when we are like focusing on a fear-based thought, when we're giving control to our ego, that's a block. And God can't get through, because God can't take away our fear. It says that, you know, in the beginning of A Course in Miracles, God can't take away our fear. But when we can identify the fear-based thought, and we can choose to release that fear-based thought and get back to a loving thought, and then our mind is at peace, then the Holy Spirit's guidance can get through. And that's what I'm always striving to do. I'm always striving to align my mind with God's mind, because that's when I'm thinking clearly. That's when I'm stepping into the flow of life. Then, because Jesus Christ is telling us in A Course in Miracles that he can't control us, you know, but what he can do is he can guide us. He can guide us to the endeavors that are best for our soul's learning. But he can't guide us when we're blocking his guidance. And when we align ourselves with negativity, when we align ourselves with illusory thoughts, when we align ourselves with the ego, the guidance of Christ or the Holy Spirit can't get through. That's why it's so important to release the ego and still our mind, because when our mind is still, when we're at a place of peace, then we can hear the Holy Spirit's guidance. That's what A Course in Miracles is teaching us to do. Again, I love A Course in Miracles cannot teach us to love, because that is who and what we are. But A Course in Miracles can help us identify the blocks to love. So when the blocks to love come up, we can choose to release them. Christ is always there. He is always with us. He is always guiding us. But we just need to stop blocking it. You know, as you said, A Course in Miracles is all about mind training. And A Course in Miracles says we are much too tolerant of mind wandering. It's about, in order to experience that peace, love, joy, and happiness on a regular basis, we need to discipline our minds to focus on the love. Right?
Yes. How do I think with God? You gave me the impetus to think that. Well, how do I know that my thoughts are aligned with God? I know this much. When I have an ego thought, when I have a fearful thought, when I'm stepping away from the consciousness of the Holy Spirit, I know that, and that is what I've become very aware of. It's so easy to forget. It's so easy to fall into the ego's trap, because we forget. Last week, in fact, Karen will remember and Dove will remember, I was supposed to be speaking with Dove on Tuesday, and my internet was down. My whole internet came down. And when my internet goes down, everything goes down. My telephone, my television. And I had to live without an internet once, or that, that example for 3 days with no power. And it was horrendous. And this happened again just before I was supposed to be speaking, and I became very fearful. Oh God, I forgot about Jesus. I forgot about the Course in Miracles. All I knew is that I cannot live, without this, without my power. I mean, I forget about just the internet, it's telephone, television, and then it came back on, and then I jumped onto the Zoom talk, and Karen Parenti asked me a very interesting question. She said, "Tell me something. were you upset when this happened? And I thought about it and I said, yes, I was. I was very upset when it happened because all I could think of, the ego was telling me what I was going to have to do without. I was going to have to do without, and what if I had to do without this for a number of days? How would I, how could I live? Well, I realized that I had forgotten. And what you don't know really is later on it happened again. The internet went out, and this time I was much more aware. I really was, and I did not allow myself to fall into the trap. And that was really the difference between forgetting, allowing your mind to take you into places where it serves you no purpose, nothing positive is going to come of this, and I realized that was a very good example. So now I'm aware. I'm aware of the fact that it's easy to fall into the ego's dictates when things don't go our way. When things are going our way, well, everything's wonderful. Isn't God wonderful? Isn't the Holy Spirit terrific? Aren't I wonderful? Until something happens. And when we forget our place and we feel attacked, because in that respect, yes, I was attacking myself by being upset and by not adhering to what I teach and what I truly believe. But the way I explained it is that I did forget. And to keep from forgetting is just a matter of keep reminding ourselves. When I get up in the morning, I really, the first thing I do is thank God and thank the Holy Spirit. I have a thankful heart. And then from there, my day is set to go. But that's really what I want to do. In a way, it's asking Jesus to stay with me, although I know, of course, Jesus is with us 24/7. I mean, he's never apart from us. But the fact is that I need to remember that he's with me all the time. And this was a good thing that happened last Tuesday, because I recognized how I became fearful and allowing that fear to control me. So that was an interesting event that happened. How about you, Susan? Do you get triggered lately? We talk about triggers sometimes.
I do get triggered. I do get triggered. Dove wrote something very wise in the chat room. I always love his comments. It's from the ACIM text. A sense of separation from God is the only lack you really need to correct. So when we get triggered and we think it's because of an outside circumstance, that's what we're defining as the trigger. It's not really that. A sense of separation from God is the only lack you really need to correct. I mean, I just got triggered 2 hours ago. I was making a call to my husband, and the phone screen stopped working properly. And this happens to me every month. I make a call and the screen doesn't look the way it should. It opens up and there's no way for me to put the call on speaker. And there's also no way for me to hang up the call. It's something that's going on with my phone right now. And, and every time it happens, I react with anger and I say to myself, well, I have been with Verizon, paying top dollar for 20 years now. This shouldn't be happening to me. And then I call the reps. I'm respectful to the rep, but I'm always very angry about the fact that this shouldn't be happening. So again, this is ego response, because when I'm truly aligned with the will of God, I do not get triggered to that extent. I let it go much easier. And I can remember a time where I was more aligned with the will of God. And I also remember I was on the phone with Lynn Johnson, and I was just about to go into like our seminar here on Pal Talk YouTube, and I had no Wi-Fi. My whole computer was being attacked, actually, is what was happening. Come to think of it, my computer it wasn't even that just the Wi-Fi went out. It's my computer was being attacked, like that ransomware stuff was happening. My computer was being attacked. And I remember Lynn Johnson said to me, stay calm, stay calm. It's interesting. She was like the Holy Spirit, stay calm, it's not real. And it was like happening in this illusory world. But for whatever the reason, I did stay calm. And by staying calm, I didn't press anything on the computer. And if I had pressed something on the computer, I would have allowed the people that was attacking my computer to get access to my computer. But because I stayed calm, I ended up just calling Verizon Tech Help, I think, and they walked me through how to bump the attackers off. And my computer came back on, and I think I even did Pal Talk that day, Pal Talk YouTube. But that's the difference between reacting with the ego and staying calm with the Holy Spirit. I mean, staying calm serves like multifold, because A, we feel better. And B, when we act from a place of calm, we actually rectify the situation in a much better way. So our mind stays calm, and we deal with the external situation in a much better way. I mean, if I had just gone into panic when my computer was being attacked, maybe if Lynn wasn't on the phone with me and I went into panic and I pressed something on the computer, the attackers, whatever you call them, they would have been able to get onto my computer. That's a very good example of the difference between, going into anxiety, aligning yourself with the ego, and then just trusting in the peace of God to be able to handle any situation you're in. I mean, what we have to realize is that, we can handle any situation that we're in. And when we stay calm and we trust that God has our back, no matter what we experience, as our good friend Sherry always says, it's all good. It's all good. It's just about calming the mind and knowing that this is an illusion, and again, I mean, a couple hours ago, my phone wasn't working and I got all angry, and I don't have to go there. I don't have to go there. I can stay calm, and we always have the choice. We have the ego on one shoulder, the Holy Spirit on the other. The ego is not real. The ego is an illusion. We think we have the ego on one shoulder, but in actuality, there is no ego. In actuality, the Holy Spirit is the only choice that is our truth, our true reality. And in terms of fear, you brought up fear too. And I listened to, I was saying before we came on Pal Talk here, that I was listening to Course in Miracles on Audible for like the 300th time. And I just love it so much. And every time I digest anything in A Course in Miracles, it's just such an amazingly enlightening experience. And Jesus Christ is writing here in chapter 2. He's writing about fear. And I think this is so interesting. I mean, what is fear? Fear, false evidence appearing real. That's a famous Course in Miracles acronym. He writes here in this one paragraph, he says, whenever you are afraid, it is a sure sign that you have allowed your mind to miscreate and have not allowed me to guide it. So there is no reason for us to go into fear. And then it says, one paragraph down, it says the correction of fear is your responsibility. When you ask for release from fear, you are implying that it is not. I am implying, when I ask Jesus to take away my fear, I'm implying that it's not my responsibility. I think that's what the Course in Miracles is saying there. You should ask instead for help in the conditions that have brought the fear about. And just as Dove just wrote in the chat room, these conditions always entail a willingness to be separate, right? That's just what he wrote. At that level, you can help it. You are much too tolerant of mind wandering and are passively condoning your mind's miscreations. So, eradicating fear is our responsibility. And once we can release the fear, we can allow the wisdom of Christ to come into our mind. Right, Myrna?
Yeah, yes, I'm listening to everything you say, and whatever you say, whatever you're saying really is right on. I mean, you know, you're walking a straight path in that respect. You were talking about fear, talking about triggers and all that. I'm looking at what Dove wrote because he often uses this phrase a lot. What could you not accept if you knew that everything that happens, all events, past, present, and to come, are gently planned by one whose only purpose is your good? I'm looking at that phrase. I must have seen it 100 times, but I never really embodied it. So, you know, the way I'm doing now, you know, looking at it and kind of just recognizing what a deep thought that is. Because, yeah, if we knew, if truly knew and accepted that everything that happens and everything that ever happened and anything that will happen is only is controlled really or gently planned for us. Nothing, we're not controlled. We have control over our own you know, thoughts and so forth and what happens. But listen to the one who is planning this for us. And if the one who is planning all of this for us is only interested in our good, what could we possibly fear? No matter what the ego tells us that we're going through, no matter what disruption we're experiencing at any time and place, and allowing it to you know, to throw a dagger into our thoughts and to obstruct our peace. If we could just think of that one sentence, that one phrase, how could we not feel peaceful? How could we not recognize that what is there to fear? Nothing at all. So again, you know, it's something that you look at, you recognize that it says everything really, because everything is the letting go of fear and letting peace take its place. That's everything. And if we can do that on a level of certainty and practice it every day and allow nothing to enter our mind except the truth of who we are and the peace that we are given to feel. And that's all we're really expected to feel. We're not expected to feel fear, and it's only the ego that tells us differently. And, you know, you can't convince anybody of this. You know, somebody is reacting, that you're with, somebody's reacting in a fearful way. All you can do is really feel it, you know, and express it, you know, in a way of how you're relating to that person. You're not preaching, you're just kind of, you know, exuding a certain peace and appeal, okay, if you will, that will make the person understand that, you know, that you're feeling that they sense that from you, and therefore they can feel it in themselves. They see it, you know, if you find it in yourself, it's easy for other people to see it in you if you truly find it in yourself. So it's really, it doesn't even matter the words that you use, it's the thoughts that you're expressing to yourself and feeling and exuding that really send the message out, you know. And Michaela said something. You want to read that? It's interesting about you.
I do want to read that. That's beautiful. I was actually, you read my mind. I was reading it as you said that, Myrna. Michaela wrote, "It's beautiful. You're so grateful for your triggers." And Dove has said that often too. Our triggers are our teachers. Our triggers are bringing to the surface these repressed pain points in our unconscious mind, so that's why we need to be grateful for our triggers, because no one can trigger us without our consent. No one can trigger us unless there's something within us that has not yet been healed. That's why we need to be grateful for our triggers, because it's bringing to the surface what needs to come up, in order for healing to occur. So to go back to Michaela's beautiful paragraph here, she wrote, "It's beautiful. You're so grateful for your triggers. My ex-husband still sets off triggers. So I'm grateful to be able to step back and look at it and stay at peace no matter what." That's amazing. Congratulations, Michaela. And if you want to share, please, I'd love for you to share also. I always love your insights. I think when I can stay at peace when something is happening in my external world that would normally upset me, I feel like I'm really getting closer to Christ consciousness. I feel like I'm really making progress in my own spiritual journey. So congratulations for not letting your ex-husband's comments or whatever he's doing trigger you. And now I see your hand raised, Michaela.
Well, thank you, Susan. Yeah, I'm really grateful for your sharing. And so, but yeah, he's still, it's interesting because I've known him since my 20s and I'm in my 60s now. And let me put the video on. And, it's interesting because he wants to still do what Ken calls the dance of death with me. So he wants me to play into it. He expects me to do that dance. So he'll take the first step and then I'm supposed to follow, but I won't follow now. I'm staying at peace. However, I still feel it in my gut. So I'm still working on it. But yeah, it's I won't take the dance of death with him anymore. So he can two-step, but I'm gonna two-step in peace. So thanks.
The dance of death. Oh, I like that. I like that. Sometimes I feel like people in my life will do things, like they'll do things to push my buttons, because on some level they are trying to push my buttons. But once I stop letting them push my buttons, then they actually recoil and stop projecting their fear onto me, But I think no matter what, if we can just stay at peace, no matter, I kind of like that little story I gave about the computer ransomware, because that was a great example. If I had acted out of fear, I would have done damage to my computer. But because I was wise enough, with Lynn's encouragement to stay calm, everything rectified itself. I mean, just to take that into any area of our life, no matter what's happening, like know that everything is perfect and know that by staying calm, we will allow the wisdom of Christ, the wisdom of God, the wisdom of our higher self to come through. And sometimes I can maintain a peaceful mindset. I mean, more so when I do my daily disciplines, like doing my Course in Miracles lesson, doing my meditation, and sometimes I still go into anxiety, I'm a work in progress. I tend to vacillate, but the more I just stay connected to Course in Miracles, the more at peace my mind stays. I mean, I was listening to Course in Miracles on Audible, I think for 2 hours this morning. And I just, by the time I got on the phone with Myrna, I realized that I am in love with the Course in Miracles. I mean, A Course in Miracles is solving all my problems if I can just embody this incredible knowledge. And then Myrna, she said, well, A Course in Miracles, but those who were meant to benefit from A Course in Miracles will find that book. Right, Myrna? Like A Course in Miracles was written for certain people, and those that are meant to learn from it will connect with those truths. But for me, A Course in Miracles solves all the problems that I have, because there are no problems. There are no problems, you know? And no matter what's going on in my life, if I can just remember how much love is available to me at each and every moment, there is no reason for fear. There is no reason for anxiety, you know? And again, we were talking about forgiveness. I mean, just to forgive everything that anyone has ever done to us, to forgive everybody for any mishap that has ever happened to ourselves, just to forgive ourselves totally and completely for any mistake we think we ever made. I mean, that's one of the fastest ways to connect to Christ consciousness is to forgive. And then I was saying earlier also that on Course in Miracles, Jesus was saying forgiveness. Well, forgiveness from an ego perspective means nothing. But forgiveness from the Holy Spirit's perspective means everything. So forgiveness without correction, it says in A Course in Miracles, means nothing. But coming from the Holy Spirit's perspective, you know, forgiveness involves correcting the mistake at the foundational level. What do you think about that, Myrna?
We talked about that. We didn't talk
Right.
about forgiveness
Right.
per se. We talked about the Course in Miracles, and we both agreed that the Course in Miracles is really given to people that are ready for that type of teaching. They're all methods of learning, but for us, this path, the Course in Miracles, was meant for us. And forgiveness is a very important understanding. It really is, because forgiveness means nothing on the level of the ego. The ego doesn't understand true forgiveness. The ego believes that in order to forgive, it's sacrificing. It's sacrificing, on behalf of the culprit, of the perpetrator, and therefore we are, now lowering ourselves by forgiving, and that's how the ego has us understand it. And truthfully, that's how I understood it until the Course in Miracles, I began to understand point blank what the Course in Miracles is saying about forgiveness. And I got that, when I picked up the Course in Miracles originally, and I realized that it really is trying to impress upon us the importance of forgiveness. I never realized it until I picked up the Course in Miracles, that forgiveness is just everything. And and that in itself takes a lot of learning, a lot of becoming aware of the necessity of finding our peace. And the way we do it is through not just a superficial form of forgiveness, but on the level, a deep level of truth, of forgiveness that we're truly feeling. Whereas we don't think about have to bring it up again. It's already been solved, it's been healed, and therefore it doesn't plague us anymore, whatever the unforgiving thought was. And then I also came to realize that I had a lot of undoing when it came to forgiving myself, because I was so guilty. Everything that I thought I ever did in the past would come up in the form of guilt. And I think I really felt it after my husband passed away, because I mean, he was very, very sick. He was very ill. And I was taking care of him for a very long time. And then after he passed away, and believe me, there was a great love between us. But after he passed away, my ego, okay, kept bringing up every single aspect of how I was not particularly patient at a particular time, or perhaps I could have been more agreeable at another time, or perhaps I could have been more understanding at another, that's what kept coming up. Not the good I did, only the bad I did, according to the ego. And that gave me a lot of guilt, a great deal of guilt, until I resolved it with Jesus and the way, or the Course in Miracles. Of course, Jesus is the practice with which I connect. I connect with Jesus in keeping the dialogue going. But he made me realize, as it's said in the Course in Miracles, that we're forgiven. We're forgiven for some. We're completely forgiven for everything. So there's no reason to feel guilty. You are completely, and absolutely forgiven, and there's nothing to fear. There's nothing to worry about. And once I was able to let go of that, let go of the guilt, I was able to then find my peace and hold on to it, because I don't allow anything to intrude upon that anymore. I don't let anything intrude upon my peace. If a thought should come up of a past deed that might give me pain for the instant, I'll know it immediately, and I'll just let it go. I'll do whatever I have to do to let it go, not in fighting with the thought, but in allowing it to acknowledge it, and it's gone. It's gone. It's not there anymore. And I do this with Jesus. I'll always ask him, didn't I just attack myself? I think I've told you this before. I always ask that question when something like that happens. Didn't I attack myself? And I love to hear his response, because of course you did. And so therefore, it works. It works for me. It's a miracle. That's what a miracle is.
Guilt is one of the biggest blocks that the ego puts out for us. It's one of the biggest blocks to love, when we feel guilty about anything. I know in my own mind, during my most severe depression in this lifetime, I just went gung-ho into the feeling of guilt. And I started blaming myself for so many things. It's like when we blame other people, or we project our guilt onto other people, that blocks us from God. When we start blaming ourselves and we internalize the guilt, that blocks us from God. But I think guilt is one of the biggest traps that the ego puts out there for us. Here in my book that I've been referring to often lately, it's got a glossary of terms from A Course in Miracles. All the important words have a definition next to them. And for guilt, Robert Perry writes, the emotional experience of the belief that because you committed a sin, you have made yourself into a bad person and deserve punishment and death. Guilt's ultimate basis is the belief that we attacked and separated from God, and thus murdered our divine innocence and turned ourselves into egos. It's really interesting too. I'm thinking about examples from my own life and this past week. I work part-time in a nursing home, and I had an episode on Saturday, where the residents were really projecting their fear all over the place, projecting this negativity all over the place. There was this one resident that was really proud of herself for doing something right. We were playing a word game, and this one resident got the word correct. And she was so proud of herself, and she just started laughing and giggling, and expressing her joy, which is beautiful. I love to see people laugh and feel proud of themselves, like in a humble way, in a loving way. I just think that's so healthy. And then another resident started making fun of her. This other resident started saying, well, she's really saying good things about herself, and she shouldn't do that because I don't do that, and she shouldn't be saying good. So one of the residents started putting down the other resident for laughing and having fun. So then I started getting angry at the one that was projecting their fear. And then there was a couple things that happened on Saturday where the residents at this particular nursing home were not in a good mood. They weren't plugged into their God socket. So they start projecting their fear onto the other residents and onto me, And then I came home a little bit grumpy, and I vented to my husband. And then I went in the next day on Sunday, and the exact same thing happened. We were playing another word game, and this one resident was very happy about the fact that she got the word right, and she starts laughing. And the exact same resident that had attacked her the day before, this time extended love to her. And she said, "Oh, isn't that wonderful? She's so happy for herself." So it's interesting how that can happen. Like on one day, somebody can project their fear, but on the next day, they can extend their love. And who am I to judge them? I know when somebody projects their fear, it's kind of a negative vibration, but then the next day, literally the exact same thing happened. And this resident extended her love, so there was, I guess, some healing there. Because when I extend my love and I see the beauty in other people, then I feel so much, much better about myself. There's never a reason to go into fear. There's never a reason to go into guilt. And did I forgive the resident? Yes, I did. I forgave this particular resident for projecting her fear, because by forgiving other people, we're really, I guess, embodying God's forgiveness of us. When we can forgive our brother, we're allowing God's forgiveness to come into our lives. A Course in Miracles says that God does not need to forgive us because God has never condemned us, but we need to forgive other people to remember how much we are loved. Because when we hold on to guilt, when we hold on to grievances, when we find other people guilty, even after they make a mistake, we disconnect ourselves from love. So, yeah, it's just so important to focus on forgiveness, acceptance, and gratitude. Those are our three easy ways to keep ourselves plugged into the God socket. And again, to just identify guilt and release it as soon as possible. Another thing that happened yesterday is I got a message on Facebook, and it was showing me a post that I had put up 4 years ago. And what the post was, it was a picture of my father during COVID. And my father passed away about 3 years ago. This post was from 4 years ago. And it was my first time seeing him after the intensity of the COVID virus had subsided. So it was my first visit with him. And I was having a visit through a window. And I took a picture of my father through a window. I was sitting on the outside of the window. He was inside the assisted living facility. He was inside the window. I was outside the window. And the title of my post was "So Grateful to Be Able to See My Dad Again." And it brought back, memories of my father. And I guess I felt a little sad seeing the picture, because what I remembered about my father is just how very much I loved him, and I still do. So I reposted that picture. But I guess now, after he's gone, I do realize how very much I love him. And I believe that he's with me in spirit. I mean, just like Charlie, right, Myrna? I mean, that you just love him so much and he's with you in spirit, right? Because I hear you talk about him many times.
Of course, all the people in our lives had extraordinary, to some degree, had an impact on us. Everyone that we've ever had in our lives, past, present, future. And so I like to look at that all relationships, whether they've passed or whether they're current. The relationships we currently have, they're all equally extraordinary. I try to really look back at everyone in my past life and in my current life and recognize that it's just, the people that are there, the people that have come through with us, are the ones that were meant to be with us, whether, they triggered us or whether we learned from them or whether we experienced love or whether we didn't. We can look at it and see that it was all for the best. And because we're at a certain place now in our life where we're expressing ourselves, we're coming to great understanding. If we weren't there previously, would we be here now? So everything that has occurred in our life has manifested into to the point where it's helped us grow. I mean, there's no question about it. If I've grown, I can only look at my past experiences, even though the past is not real. I recognize that, but the only value that the past has is to learn from it, to learn from the experiences and realize that nothing bad ever happened. Everything that ever happened in my life was for my good. And I see that, really. Even though while I was experiencing it, it was necessary in order for me to really go to the next step and so forth, and to evolve. So, what is there to be fearful of, or what is there to resent if we are in a place that we feel at least I can speak for myself, that I've come so very far in my everything. I mean, I'm not the person I was. And that's another reason that we can't, that we shouldn't chastise ourselves for any past mistakes, because there were no mistakes. The only thing that happened is that we are here right now speaking about the love and forgiveness and peace, and that is really what we've, how we came from a place that has brought us to where we are now. That's how I see it. So therefore, what is there to fear about the future? I can only evolve further. That's the only thing that can happen. I can't go backwards. I know that. And that's a comforting thought in itself. I can rely on the truth of the everything that is coming about in my life, which is truth, because it gives me comfort. Whatever happening is giving me comfort. And even that little episode I had last week with my internet going down, that was a very important message for me. It was a message for me not to allow anything to sully my peace, because I work so hard and I strive so hard for it. And I want to keep it. And yeah, it's very easy to get upset. I can tell you stories. I did relate a story to you last week about my Mahjong group, and it was quickly jump into it. Whereas one of the women was being thrown out by one woman who doesn't like her, and I stood up for that woman, saying that I'm not throwing anybody out of a game. I mean, I just can't do that. It's not in me to do that. So as a result, I got maybe sort of squeezed out a little myself for sticking up for this one woman. I enjoy Mahjong, but it's always one person. It always seems that there's one person that controls everybody. I've noticed that happening. You know what? Turn it over to the Holy Spirit. Whatever happens, happens. And I'm even able to reconcile myself with that as well. So anyway, but I turn it back to you, Susan. I want to see what your thoughts are about this. People trick
Yeah, you told me that story about the Marjan group.
the Mahjong group.
I know there are so many. I mean, I give you credit because I think you don't let other people affect you. I mean, you just are so good at not taking things personally. I mean,
Well, I
that's
took it personally. I'm not that good. I took it personally, but I'm not letting it. I see the truth behind it. That's all I care about. I see the truth behind it. That I'm not going to align myself with an abrasive personality, or an abrasive person. And this is, the abrasive personality is, affecting the group. And and that's, I just can kind of look at it from afar, and it's fine. uh it is what it is. But of course, I do I do take it personally.
it's healthy to speak our truth.
uh
When I think about what I know about Jesus when he was alive in this world and the ego projections were running rampant, Jesus just didn't hang out and keep his mouth shut, right? He spoke the truth of God and pointed out the mistakes that other people were making by aligning themselves with the ego. He just didn't keep his mouth shut, right? I mean, so when we see ego projections taking place, I mean, judgment is not of God. However, voicing our concerns, I think, is a healthy thing because that's part of what bringing the darkness and identifying the darkness is all about. So with the, how do you pronounce that word? It's Marjan,
no,
Myrna?
it's Mahjong. 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 It's a
Oh,
Chinese.
Mahjong.
Yeah, it's a Chinese.
Okay, so with the Mahjong group, I mean, you could have just let somebody get kicked out and kept your mouth shut, but you didn't think that was right, which I don't either. So you stuck up for the woman that was being bumped. I think that's healthy, and I think about my little triggers, and I guess that's a good word, my little triggers, my little challenges that I face in the nursing home when I see someone coming from an egotistical place. I mean, I guess sometimes I feel like the right thing to do is to speak up and point out the mistake that is being made. you know? So when I see one resident start putting down another resident, I will speak my mind about it, trying to do it without being judgmental, but I will point out the error. And, you know, maybe that's what I would define as setting healthy boundaries, because setting healthy boundaries just has to do with maintaining a respect for everyone involved, because I think healthy boundaries are of God. Healthy boundaries are definitely not to separate. Healthy boundaries are to maintain, you know, a loving environment at all times. So yeah, because, right? So when we think about Jesus, when mistakes were happening, Jesus just didn't keep his mouth shut. Jesus like spoke the truth of God so everybody could benefit from his knowledge. And it's about honesty, and that's how healing occurs. I mean, we were talking about one of our friends who is going through some emotional challenges right now, and we feel like she's not being fully open about what she's going through, and we love her, but I think part of healing, true healing, comes from honesty to whatever is coming up. You know, I mean, I always go to this one little sentence in the Course in Miracles, which is the escape from darkness. It says the escape from darkness involves two stages. First, the recognition that darkness cannot hide. Second, the recognition that there is nothing you want to hide, even if you could. When you have become willing to hide nothing, you will not only be willing to enter into communion, but will also understand peace and joy. I hope I align that properly with what we're talking about, but I think it's very important to be honest, because if we're not honest, we just keep all the ego repressed in our unconscious mind, and then healing doesn't occur. But it's very important to bring the darkness to the light so healing can occur, and try to release the judgment, but be honest about what's happening. I think what you did with your Mahjong group, Myrna, is like just very, very healthy.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I absolutely am fine, and just turn it over to the Holy Spirit. So, yeah.
So on that note, it is 4 o'clock. Thank you for our time together today, Myrna. I love you, and I love everyone here. Thank you for your sharing. Thank you for your chats. And as A Course in Miracles says in the introduction, nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists.
Herein lies, go ahead, the peace of
Herein
God.
lies the peace of God.
Right.
And what that means is the only thing that's real is the love.
I love that. I say that a lot. That affirmation, I say a lot. Do you know that every time a healing thought jumps into my mind, I use that affirmation. I know it in my sleep. So I love to hear you say it, because it's such a great one.
Well, thank you. And I will now return the microphone to Lynn.
Thank you so much, Susan and Myrna. Always such a pleasure to have you, and thank you for being here on Memorial Day. It was very nice, because a lot of folks don't like to do this, but I'm really happy that you're both here. So God bless you, and